I was talking to some of the students over the last couple of days about functionalism, kind of positivism, this concept that society is a great big machine and we're all cogs in the wheel. And some of the functionalist theorists put forward this idea that people are very pragmatic, that basically everybody kind of does what they have to do to get by, and everybody protects their little place and their little position. I think Irish people are quite like that in a lot of ways. Our attitude is, well, sure, look, we don't really want to rock the boat too much. We don't want to upset things. We don't want to overturn the status quo because, well, we're here and we're comfortable and we've got our bit and we're going to kind of protect that.
Yeah. Well, just to comment on that, I remember I was involved with the Consumer Association of Ireland for a long time, and I remember when we moved into the euro, there was a burst of inflation, which we'd predicted, as retailers took the opportunity to increase prices, in the confusion. The Greeks tried the same thing. They were going from the drachma to the euro, which is a high denomination currency, and the Italians were going from the lira to the euro, which is a high denomination currency. The Greeks were on strike. The Italians stopped going to their restaurants. They just organised it. There was a national reaction. And I remember being interviewed on Today FM and saying, well, why aren't the Consumer Association of Ireland calling for a national strike in Ireland? We're getting the same thing over here. They said, because you'd have to actually get about 13 or 14 Irish middle-class consumers up to Kilmainham jail and shoot them. And then you might get a reaction. In Ireland, and I know this because the membership of the Consumer Association of Ireland is only about 5,000 members. It should have around 50,000 to 100,000 if it was like Holland or any other normal European country. You say, well, why? And the answer is because in Ireland what happens is that we're inclined to say, here's the sign, right? There's the barricade. We built the barricade for you. We've painted the sign. They'll bring it to the barricade, tap you on the shoulder, and they'll just disappear, right? I call it the Mrs. O'Brien effect. I remember years ago we used to play soccer in Erwood Estate in the Lough in Cork, and we had a game where we used to kick a ball up against the wall and call the next guy's name, he'd have to kick it again. But the problem was the wall we used to play against, which had a big hedge above it, was right in front of Mrs. O'Brien's front window. And we regard her as a dragon, right? She was a normal person. We just had the woman terrorised because her kids couldn't play football. They were 2 left feet. And I remember we had a very close gang. I remember I hit the ball one day, over the hedge it went, through the window, smash. And I stood there in the middle of the road, frozen. And the door opened and Mrs. O'Brien came out with her colours and her big glowing dragon face. And to me, like, this was Armageddon, right? And I looked around and 7 or 8 guys, my closest friends in the world, they were gone. There was no sign of them. And as far as she was concerned, I got the ball, I stood in the middle of the road and burst her window deliberately. She's accusing me of this, and they're all hiding over the wall. Right? That's the Mrs. O'Brien effect. Yeah. And we have the same thing here. We tend to, maybe it's a village thing, we tend to like to try and influence things indirectly, not confront the issue, not deal with it in a very open way. And I don't know why that is, but that's the way we've done it.
Okay, I think we're going to turn it over to questions from the group. Is that somebody leaving or somebody? No, it's somebody with a microphone. Okay, we've got a question right up the front here.
Has the gold been discredited by these cash for gold shops, and should we still be investing in gold?
Oh, gold, right.
Okay, has gold been discredited by the whole cash for gold shop trend?
Well, there's a scam going on. There's a lot of scamming going on in that area, and I intend to cover it in the next series of the Consumer Show starting in April. It's one of the topics we've done. Gold is not in a bubble. Gold is the ultimate. The reason why, if you begin to understand gold as a currency and not as a commodity, you begin to understand what's happening. And the reason why gold prices have been rising consistently for the last 7 or 8 years is because of lack of faith in the value of fiat currencies, particularly the dollar, the sterling and the euro, because of the excessive printing increases in money volume. Until such time as that situation begins to reverse, precious metal prices are going to remain quite strong. So I don't see gold being in a bubble that's going to burst. I don't buy into that. I think, however, it's had a lot of its run. Certainly for the time being, it's selling at around 1,300 euros an ounce. I've been recommending throughout 2010 that people should buy silver, because the ratio of silver to gold was way below its historic ratio, and silver caught up silver normally is selling at somewhere between 20 and 40 times less than the gold price. It was 65 to 70 times less than the gold price. So silver doubled in value last year. So this year I think a split between silver and gold is probably the way to go. And the best way of doing that is not to go near any of these organised crowds, because they're absorbing 40 to 50% of the true value they're pocketing themselves. The best way of doing it is to buy it in the form of Perth Mint certificates from the Perth Mint in Australia. It's not underwater. And they have a European agent called Goldcore, which is based in Dublin, and they'll take a minimum investment of 100 or 150 euros a month if you want to do it monthly, or a lump sum of around about 7,000 or 8,000 euros, and you actually get a certificate from the Perth Mint with your name on it. They have the gold and silver with your name on it, literally in the Perth Mint in Australia. And so you can't show it off, but you can hold it. Now, so the question then arises, when should you sell gold and silver? When you're sitting at a dinner party, or you're having coffee with your friends and everybody is saying, I bought gold and silver, then it's time to sell it. Okay? But not yet.
I have to admit, I have a horror of the stock exchange. I tend to see it as being a little bit like gambling. I know this is probably totally ill-educated and superstitious, but I presented a radio program a little while back, and Ivan Yates, God love him, used to come on the show occasionally and give us a certain amount of money that we could put on charity bets. We'd bet on horses, and whatever our winnings would be, we could donate to charity. And we would get people to ring in and nominate charities that we would give our winnings to. Now, he might as well have been flushing the money down the toilet, because I never won a penny for any of the charities. And I took all of the best advice off everybody. And I sort of think of the stock exchange as being a little bit like betting on horses. You know, you take advice off everyone. It could still go either way, surely. Am I right or completely wrong?
Oh, no, you're completely wrong.
I'm completely wrong.
Yeah,
kind of getting used to that.
No, look, we spend so many, 10, 15, 20 years being educated. We come out and we work for, 30 years. We then are retired for probably another 20 or 30 years the way mortality rates are going, right? So a huge amount of money is going into getting us ready to go to work. Over the course of your career, you generate, nominally, millions come through your bank account. But you hardly spent an hour during your formal education period learning how to manage it, how to do it, how does it work. We come out, how many people here have ever bought a DIY book on how money works? Investment planning, anything from the Dummies series, right? But everybody is going to go and earn money. And I would say to you, go on your weakest suit. It's clearly weakest suit. Go and spend 15 or 20 euros on a very good investment planning book, learn the principles, and then you don't have to rely on all these sharks that are selling you advice. In my experience, the financial services industry is constantly peddling the wrong advice at the wrong time, because that's what people want to hear. They want to learn about the past performance over the last. They want the comfort. So people are often investing in the wrong things at the wrong time, because that's what they're being sold.
Okay.
And the only way through that is to learn how to see past it.
Learn how to see past it.
Yeah.
Other questions? No? Yeah?
Just a question for Eddie. A lot of the students here, in relation to social care or social services, are going into a world where there's no jobs at the moment. Eddie spoke earlier on about really we need to get our finances in the country to a level we don't spend anymore. I was just wondering, has anyone done any research into the effects of what's happening now and what has been happening in the last year in regards to cuts in social welfare? I mean, the end game is in 5 years' time the country will be better off by all the cuts. But in my opinion, the reality is it'll be at least 5 times worse and 5 times more expensive to try and fix then. I was just wondering, has Eddie any views on that?
Well, I do. I mean, I think there should have been no cuts in social protection rates. I believe that. I've written that. I've gone into debates on that. I think it was unconscionable what happened. But the reason it happened was because the people that should have taken the cuts and the reform that should have happened didn't happen and isn't happening. And that's the problem. There was this nonsense going around in 2009 that you could suddenly, tax the wealthy in this country, not realising the wealth was all gone. That's the problem. Or increase income tax to 65% for everybody earning over 100 grand a year. People just leave the country when you do that. We already have. Look, I've a lot of people I plug into every day. They're clients of mine. They're business owners. I know what's going on. The growth in the black market, the black economy in Ireland is absolutely staggering. Staggering.
In what way? Where's the black economy going?
Well, people are coming to doctors, dentists, people selling conservatories, and they're saying, I'll buy it off you, cash, no VAT. The cash economy is bubbling back up.
So we're reaching the point where you can start haggling with your doctor.
Because as soon as you put income tax rates above 50%, half your income, you end up growing a black economy. It's as simple as that. Because it's human nature. If you're going to do that to me, I'm going to try and evade it. That's what happens. And you can talk about patriotism coming out the wazoo, but it just doesn't work. So I think that we shouldn't have done that. We all have members of our extended family that are reliant on social protection, including my own, and I'm very sensitive to it. But the actual real reform never happened, and that is in the whole area of how we administrate this country. And it's right from the Taoiseach and President down. The Taoiseach in this country, even after the cuts, with the exclusion of the Sultan of Brunei, is still per capita, the highest paid public servant in the world, despite the cuts, right? And they're the things we have to deal with. On the question of what damage it will do, well, and the people here, if you were my kids, I would say to you, get your education, look at your strengths and weaknesses, develop as much as you can, and if there isn't a job here, get on a plane and go to a commodity-backed economy like Canada or Australia, which is set for huge net surplus income over the next 10 or 20 years while this phase is going on. And get more experience there and come back with greater value to this economy when you're in your late 20s or early 30s. There's nothing wrong with doing that. It's difficult, I know. It's damaging for families, you can argue. But it's very different from what it was 20 or 30 years ago, before the internet, before Skype, and before much cheaper airline travel. So I wouldn't hesitate, if I was your age again, to think about getting the basics together and getting on a plane. I wouldn't hesitate.